At the top of page 95, let's write, desperation equals willingness. Desperation equals willingness. Hopelessness equals teachability. Desperation equals willingness. Hopelessness equals teachability. And that was absolutely true for me. You know, once the heat was off and the desperation was off, I suddenly was not willing to do much of anything. And I also knew everything again, right? So, unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, do not wear out your welcome. Give him a chance to think it over. If you do stay, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. If he has trouble later, he is likely to say you rushed him. What is that? I've got next to that, I've got written very few nevers in the book. Very few nevers in the book. You will be most successful with alcoholics. Oh, that's coming up. I'm sorry. You will be most successful with alcoholics if you do not exhibit any passion for crusade or reform. Never. There it is. Circle never. And there you can write very few nevers in the book. And we're going to highlight to the end of the paragraph. Never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools. Next to that, write 12 steps. 12 steps for his inspection. Show him how they work with you. Offer him friendship and fellowship. Tell him that if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help, and underline anything. Okay, so we're also going to write something. First approach. Okay, so off to that paragraph, off to the right, that's why the nevers, I had to go up further. First approach, only tell them what I have done. Don't tell them what to do. That's the first approach. We're not going to start. Only tell them what I have done. Don't tell them what to do. First approach.
Sorry, what's that again?
First approach, only tell them what I have done. Don't tell them what to do. Right? And I mean, as you know, if you do become a sponsor, obviously that's going to change, right? But first approach, only tell them what I have done. Don't tell them what to do. Not at this point. Only tell them what I have done. Don't tell them what to do. And again, that's the first approach. And again, we're going to highlight the whole next little paragraph. If he is not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act only as a banker for his financial difficulties or a nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind. This he may do after he gets hurt some more. Right? And again, I mean, my sponsor, you know, and I mean, he was just a huge advocate of letting people hit their bottom. Huge advocate, because he said they're not going to, you know, just for what we wrote at the top, he said desperation is willingness and hopelessness is teachability, right? And you know, we can take people who come in here, we can take them by the hand, right? And we can help them to believe, we can help them with step 2, we can help them make a decision, and we can help them through the program of action. But what we can't do is we cannot make people willing. That's something that they've got to do by themselves. And you know, the way we do that is by drinking lots of whiskey. Drinking lots of whiskey and having lots of bad things happen to us. If he is sincerely interested and wants to see you again, ask him to read this book in the interval. After doing that, he must, circle must, and let's highlight to the end of the paragraph. He must decide for himself whether he wants to go on. He should not be pushed or prodded by you, his wife, or his friends. If he is to find God, the desire must, circle must, come from within. Right? So again, after come from within, right, can't be forced on him. Can't be forced. And it's always the loved ones that's going to try to do that. Jake, why don't you turn that fan on to 3 back there? It'll go up and at least get some air circulating a little bit. Can't be forced on him. If he thinks he can do the job in some other way or prefers some other spiritual approach, Encourage him to follow his own conscience. Highlight the next sentence. We have no monopoly on God. We merely have an approach that worked with us. Right? Now we've got to remember that this approach that we have has worked for millions of hopeless alcoholics. Right? And up until these 12 steps were available, it was, if you remember from the beginning of the book, it was here and there, now and then. Right? I've seen people, Carl Jung said, once in a great while somebody's had a vital spiritual experience. But today, right now in Alcoholics Anonymous, every time somebody's willing to apply these steps to their lives, we get to see that same thing happen. But point out that we alcoholics have much in common, and that you would like in any case to be friendly. Let it go at that. Now we're going to write something at the bottom of the page. Give your number, right? We're talking about meetings now, or detox, or treatment centers, or wherever. Give your number / take their number, right? I mean, anybody that's had any experience giving your number out to people, they're not going to call you. I never did. I would never call anybody. Are you kidding me? The telephone weighs 10,000 pounds. So give your number, take their number. Right now, and again, if you're taught something else by your sponsor, that's okay. But my sponsor told me, call them twice. Call them twice. So maybe, the next day call them. They don't call you back. Maybe call them 2 days later. Right? But we're not gonna bug them, right? And then he'd say like maybe 3 weeks later, a month later, just call them again, right? Now again, if your sponsor has other things, your sponsor's right. I'm just making some suggestions here, but it really works. And I mean, again, most people they don't call you. They simply don't. Do not be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once. Right? I mean, a lot of times people will hear something and then they'll remember it later and they'll come back to us. Search out another alcoholic and try again. You are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer. Highlight the next 3 lines. We find it a waste of time to keep chasing a man who cannot or will not work with you. And I've had my experience, picking up a guy and driving him to a meeting. I think I did that for almost 2 weeks in a row, every night. But he didn't want to do any of the work. And as soon as he got his DWI case settled, with all the card signing and everything, I never saw him again. Doesn't mean I don't try to help him, but it was no use of me to try to chase this guy. If you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced that he cannot recover by himself. To spend too much time on anyone's situation is to deny some other alcoholic an opportunity to live and be happy. Highlight to the end of the paragraph. One of our fellowship failed entirely with his first 6 prospects. He often says that if he had continued to work on them, he might have deprived many others who have since recovered of their chance. And next to that you can write Bill W. Bill W. Remember when he got out of the town's hospital, he went running all over New York City, pulling people off of bar stools, pulling them up out of the gutter, taking them to Oxford meetings and trying to help them. No success. Suppose now you are making your second visit to a man. So they're talking about the first, they're talking about the initial contact and then the first approach. Suppose now you are making your second visit to a man. He has read this volume and says he is prepared to go through with the 12 steps of the program of recovery. Right? That's like a dream if you ever get that one. Right? That's happened twice to me, right? Where let's do it, right? It was more like, okay, I'll do it. Highlight the next sentence, the next 2 lines. Having had the experience yourself, you can give him much practical advice. Let him know you are available if he wishes to make a decision. Above make a decision, write 3. Now, with my sponsees, when we take step 3, I like to take it and say it together on our knees, right? That way I know that they've done it formally. And even, some people who have a big problem, my will in my life, oh my God, right? Even if it's just a decision to go through with the rest of the steps, but we still get down on our knees and we still take it. And tell his story. Above that, write 5. Make a decision and tell his story. But do not insist upon it if he prefers to consult someone else. Right? So on the second approach, hey, I got this other guy. Hey, that is great. I hope you come back to that Thursday night meeting. I'd love to see you there. No problem. He may be broken, homeless. If he is, you might try to help him about getting a job. I did that for a guy. And I mean, it was just fantastic. This guy didn't have a job. He showed up. He'd been sober. He got out of treatment. I think he had about 2 months. And he showed up, and we needed a warehouse guy awfully bad, so we hired him on the spot, right? Well, the very next day, my HR guy came running out and said, "Who the hell hired this guy? I just saw all his felonies," right? So my boss goes, "He did," and he pointed right to me, and he said, "Oh, you're going to vouch for him?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to vouch for him." And he said, "Okay," and he just walked away. And, this guy turned out to be fantastic. He's still with the company after 3 years, and he's just a great employee, right? And that just, what a wonderful thing. And he says, you called me and told me to come in for an interview, and I was running out of money, and just by the time I got my first paycheck, I was able to make it, and it was out of this world what happened for the guy. It's fantastic. About getting a job, or give him a little, circle the word little, right? Little financial assistance. We're not going to give a lot. Somebody doesn't have cigarette money or something like that, sure, I'm going to try to help them out. But you should not deprive your family or creditors of money they should have. Remember, when we talked about step 9, family comes first, what's left goes to the creditors. Perhaps you will want to take the man into your home for a few days, but be sure you use discretion. Be certain he will be welcomed by your family and that he is not trying to impose upon you for money, connections, or shelter. Permit that and you only harm him. Right? So again, we got to let people hit bottom. And, this is going to sound horrible, but this happened to my sponsor. My second sponsor, man, he brought a guy into his home, and this guy raped his girlfriend. So we really, really have to be careful. And so if there's other people involved, I mean, you know what I'm going to try to do for somebody? I'm going to try to get them into detox, and I'm going to try to get them into treatment. Then when they come out, I'm going to try to work with them if they're, in that kind of shape, right? Permit that, and you only harm him. Right? Again, we got to let people hit bottom. You will make it possible for him to be insincere. You may be aiding in his destruction rather than his recovery. So after recovery, right, don't deprive him/her of their bottom. Don't deprive him/her of their bottom. I mean, I often think if I wouldn't hit bottom so hard, I don't think I'd be here right now. There's the other never. Never, okay, underline that, never. Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you are doing the right thing if you assume them. Okay, we're going to highlight the next 4 lines. Helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. You have to be the Good Samaritan every day if need be. So next to that, we're going to write live the program. Live the program. I used for the first year, this last time, my first year, I was a good guy for 1 hour a day, right, when I went to the meeting. I didn't learn this, practicing these principle things in all my affairs till much later. That almost cost me my job. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep, great interference with your pleasures, interruptions to your business. It may mean sharing your money and your home, counseling frantic wives and relatives, innumerable trips to police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. Your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. Your wife may sometimes say she is neglected. A drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. That hasn't happened to me yet. You may have to fight with him if he is violent. Sometimes you will have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under his direction. Another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally you will have to meet such conditions. So on one side of that big long paragraph we're going to write love thy neighbor, and on the other side we're going to write price of sobriety. Love thy neighbor on one side, price of sobriety on the other. And where it says administer sedatives, that's near the bottom of the paragraph, we're going to write detox. Right? Number one, I don't have any sedatives, and I'm not qualified, so today we're going to get people to detox is what we're going to do. And I had, a guy told me at a meeting that, this guy was hurting pretty bad and needed to go to detox, so he did call the ambulance, and he said that the EMTs or whatever you call them, they were not at all happy with him. But as it turns out, it was a good move that the guy got into doctor care. So we're going to try to get these people to detox. Back when this book was written, it was very hard to get an alcoholic into a hospital. They had to lie. Because back then, it wasn't known as a disease. It was known as low moral character. It was known as sin. It was known as weak willpower, right? That's why the doctors had to lie to get us into the hospital back in the 30s and even the 40s and 50s. We seldom allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for long at a time. It is not good for him, and it sometimes creates serious complications in a family. Funny enough, when I read this the first time I went through a Code Blue, little did I know that I'm going to be getting somebody a job and I'm going to have somebody living with me, right, in my house. But what a wonderful joy. Eric, who was here and helped us out with his the 4th and 9th step, when he's in town, he stays with me, and I love it. I love having him here. So like 2 weeks out of the month he stays with me, and his current condition, I'm like, no man, you're staying here for free. You're staying here for free, and I'll help you out any way I can. And I got to tell you, I get so much more out of it than he probably does. I just can't tell you. Though an alcoholic does not respond.
John?
Yep.
So I just got to share, I have an experience where the police got involved with someone. I had him at home, and he and his girlfriend came over, and things got out of hand between the two of them. They both had too much drinking and fighting. She was out in the driveway with the car, made a lot of noise with the horn, so the neighbors called, the cops showed up, and they gave me a choice. They said, either we take him to the hospital or you take him to the hospital. So I agreed, and I took him over to the hospital, and they found the bed, and that was that.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't the end of his drinking career. Today he's sober, but it was really nice that the cops gave me that option.
Sure.
They could have nailed him with the DUI, or his girlfriend with the DUI.
You bet.
So,
Yep.
anyway,
Yep.
that's just reminded me.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna, and funny enough, it's when we work these steps, right? Number one, we're gonna put ourselves on the firing line. So we're gonna be in all kinds of crazy situations. But the funny thing is, God's been with us since step 3, and we're gonna find that we can do all kinds of things that we're not supposed to be able to do. Right? And I mean, and things, I have no idea what to do, but we're going to get that intuition. I mean, we're going to figure it out, right? And I mean, we got to stay on the firing line. We got to keep trying to help people, right? We've got to be in the arena. We got to be in the arena.
So if you have a sponsee and she doesn't really seem to want to do the work, or sort of lagging, do you just ask her, are you serious or not?
Well, I mean, that, and that's something, that's why we have sponsor chains. So you be talking to your sponsor about this person as you're trying to work with them along, so that your sponsor, or maybe even your sponsor's sponsor is going to know, a lot better than what I could do. But I mean, for me, if I've got somebody that, if they don't want to work the steps, right? They don't, and I mean, the first part of that is sitting down and doing your 4th step. I mean, we'll take the 3rd step on our knees, but if they don't want to do the work, that's all I got. If they don't want to do that, I don't get anything else for you. I mean, I can't, I wouldn't know what to do. And if they don't want to do that, then it's no use for him and no use for me to try to help. Because that's the only thing I know, is if somebody wants me to sponsor them, it's taking them through the book and doing the work. That's the only game I have. It's the only game I know. So, yeah. We seldom allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for... Let's see. Sometimes create serious complications in a family. Though an alcoholic does not respond, there is no reason why you should neglect his family. You should continue to be friendly to them. The family should be offered your way of life. Should they accept and practice spiritual principles, there is a much better chance that the head of the family will recover. And even though he continues to drink, the family will find life more bearable. Next to that, let's write direct them to Al-Anon. Direct them to Al-Anon. There, I mean, you hear about it. And I should go to Al-Anon. I haven't been yet because I've got 2 practicing alcoholics in my family. But that's when you hear an alcoholic say, my wife has a black belt in Al-Anon. Yeah, I mean, it's they better know how to, well, number one, they need the help like nobody's business, but they also know better how to deal with the alcoholic, right, in Al-Anon. So we direct these people to Al-Anon.
I also heard Al-Anon called the back door in AA.
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that could be for the person who goes to deal with the alcoholic that isn't an alcoholic, but maybe they find out they are. But it's also because even if the person is not an alcoholic at all, they get direction in Al-Anon from what I've heard that it's going to be more likely that maybe the alcoholic in their life will go to AA. So, because like I say, once you got a black belt, you can get things done, right? For the type of alcoholic who is able and willing to get well, little charity in the ordinary sense of the word is needed or wanted. The men who cry, highlight this sentence, the men who cry for money and shelter before conquering alcohol are on the wrong track. Right? So next to that, right, work on alcoholism first, then other problems. Work on alcoholism first, then other problems. I always, man, my MO, man, a veteran of 8 or 9 treatments, I'd get out of there and say, look, man, I don't have any money. I got to get back to work. Once I get all these things lined up, then I'll take care of this business over here. I would always jump in, and I was always afraid of not having money. I'd always go back to work, and I always relapsed. Never did I put working these steps first. And as a result of that, I always lost everything, or I never had anything, right? Yet we do go to great extremes to provide each other with these very things when such action is warranted. This may seem inconsistent, but we think it is not. It is not the matter of giving that is in question, but when and how to give, that often makes the difference between failure and success. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon God. Highlight to the end of the paragraph. He clamors for this or that, claiming he cannot master alcohol until his material needs are cared for. That was me. Nonsense. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth, job or no job, wife or no wife. We simply do not stop drinking as long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence upon God. Burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone. The only condition is that he trust in God. Put a 2 and 3 in front of that. And clean house, put 4 through 9 above that. Now we're going to write something off to the left. Everything you lost, you didn't need. Everything you lost, you didn't need. Everything that was left was all I needed to recover. Everything you lost you didn't need. Everything that was left was all that I needed to recover. And in some cases, that's just the clothes on their back. Everything you lost you didn't need. Everything that was left was all I needed to recover. Now the domestic problem, there may be divorce, separation, or just strained relations. When your prospect has made such reparation as he can to his family and has thoroughly explained to them the new principles by which he is living, he should proceed to put those principles, circle, into action at home. I guess you can circle those principles into action at home. That is, if he is lucky enough to have a home. Though his family be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. Highlight the next little sentence. Argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the plague. Just that little line there. In many homes, this is a difficult thing to do, but it must, circle must, be done if any results are to be expected. If persisted in for a few months, the effect on a man's family is sure to be great. The most incompatible people discover they have a basis upon which they can meet. Little by little, the family may see their own defects and admit them. These can be discussed in an atmosphere of helpfulness and friendliness. After they have seen tangible results, the family will perhaps want to go along. Highlight the next 5 lines. These things will come to pass naturally and in good time, provided, however, the alcoholic continues to demonstrate that he can be sober, considerate, and helpful, regardless of what anyone says or does. Right there. Of course, we all fall much below this standard many times. Right? Actually, stop highlighting there. We aspire, right? It's progress, not perfection. But we must try to repair the damage immediately, lest we pay the penalty by a spree. If there be divorce or separation, remember that guilt, shame, and remorse is going to kill us, right? I mean, resentment is the number 1 offender, but when we do stuff for that guilt, shame, and remorse, I'm the worst person on earth. You know, we take care of stuff as soon as we can. If there be divorce or separation, there should be no undue haste for the couple to get together. The man should be sure of his recovery. The wife should fully understand his new way of life. If their old relationship is to be resumed, it must, circle must, be on a better basis, since the former did not work. Underline the little sentence. This means a new attitude and spirit all around. So we're going to write next to that, recovery comes first. Recovery comes first. Don't dictate. Recovery comes first. Don't dictate. Sometimes it is to the best interest of all concerned that a couple remain apart. Obviously, no rule can be laid down. Let the alcohol continue his program day by day. When the time for living together has come, it will be apparent to both parties. Highlight the next 2 lines. Let no alcoholic say he cannot recover unless he has his family back. This just isn't so. Right? And I mean, like it said, it's job, money, security, family, it's all of these things. We've got to recover first, or we're probably not going to have any of that anyway. In some cases, the wife will never come back, or husband, for one reason or another. Highlight, remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon people, it is dependent upon his relationship with God. We got to highlight that. And at the top of the page, let's write, don't put people on a pedestal, or don't be on a pedestal. Right? We cannot be dependent upon people. And I'm not only talking about getting your family back, but I'm talking about even putting your sponsor on a pedestal, anybody on a pedestal, right? So don't put people on a pedestal, right? Dependent upon his relationship with God. Damn it. I'm going to read this letter real quick. This is, and I looked and looked, this is a letter written by Bill Wilson in 1960. There was a group in Chicago that wrote Bill a letter, and I've tried to find out why they were pissed off at Bill. But they wrote him a letter reading him the riot act, right? You're not a spiritual guy, nah, 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 nah. And I think there were rumors of an affair, and there were some other things. And so this group from Chicago, and I don't even know why they were pissed off at Bill, but they read him the riot act. Here's Bill's response to these people in Chicago. He'd been sober 26 years. That you seem disillusioned with me personally may be a new and painful experience for you, but many members have had that experience with me. Most of their pain has been caused not only by my several shortcomings, but by their own insistence on placing me, a drunk, trying to get along with other folks upon a completely illusory pedestal, a station which no fallible person could possibly occupy. I'm sure that you will understand that I have never held myself out to anybody as either a saint or a superman. I have repeatedly and truthfully said that AA is full of people who have made more spiritual progress than I ever or can make. That in some areas of living I had made some decided gains, but in others I seem to have stood still, and in still other ways I may have gone backwards. I am sorry that you are disillusioned with me, but I am happy that even I have found a life here. I think that's fantastic, right? So, that's our founder, man. He's saying, I'm just a drunk. You better not put me on a pedestal. We have seen men who get well whose families have not returned at all. We have seen others slip when the family came back too soon. Highlight the next 3 lines. Both you and the new man must walk day by day. I can't read that because it's blocked out. The path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. Next to that, write promise. Promise. I'm going to speed up a little bit. When we look back, we realize that the things which came to us when we put ourselves, highlight, in God's hands were better than anything we could have ever planned. Okay, that next to that little highlighted sentence, next to it, write every time. Every time. Follow the dictates of a higher power and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. Again, write promise after circumstances. Okay, highlight the next 2 sentences, the next 2 lines. When working with a man and his family, you should take care not to participate in their quarrels. Right? So we never take sides, never. You may spoil your chance of being helpful if you do, but urge upon a man's family that he has been a very sick person and should be treating accordingly. You should warn against arousing resentment or jealousy. You should point out that his defects of character are not going to disappear overnight. Highlight that. His defects of character are not going to disappear overnight. Show them that he has entered upon a period of growth. Ask them to remember when they are impatient the blessed fact of his sobriety. If you have been successful in solving, highlight the next 3 lines. If you have been successful in solving your own domestic problems, tell the newcomer's family how that was accomplished. We're going to write next to that, give advice only if you have experience. Give advice only if you have experience. That's why we got a wonderful fellowship of AA. So if your sponsee is in a situation and we've got to find somebody in AA that has lived that situation, right? Remember, I said this earlier when I used to give advice about everything, no matter what, because I knew everything, right? Well, I discovered that I don't know much when I come into these rooms. In this way, you can set them on the right track without becoming critical of them. The story of how you and your wife settled your difficulties is worth any amount of criticism. Here we are. Highlight the next 2 lines. Assuming we are spiritually fit, we can do all sorts of things alcoholics are not supposed to do. There it is. People have said, we're going to circle all the musts here. People have said we must not go where liquor is served. We must not have it in our homes. We must shun friends who drink. We must avoid moving pictures which show drinking scenes. We must not go into bars. Our friends must hide their bottles if we go to their houses. We mustn't think or be reminded about alcohol at all. Next to that, write a big BS, right? Next to those, the paragraph with that must on. So we're going to highlight the next 4 lines. Our experience shows that this is not necessarily so. We meet these conditions every day. An alcoholic who cannot meet them still has an alcoholic mind. There is something the matter with his spiritual status. Okay. His only chance for sobriety would be someplace like the Greenland ice cap, and even there an Eskimo might turn up with a bottle of scotch and ruin everything. I love that line. Ask any woman who has sent her husband to distant places on the theory he would escape the alcohol problem. In our belief, any scheme of combating alcoholism which proposes to shield the sick man from temptation is doomed, circle doomed, to failure. I mean, that reminds me of the story. I can't remember who this guy was, but he was a famous announcer, and he got addicted to crack, and he hid himself in an apartment for 1 year. And a reporter interviewed him, and he said, "I've been staying away from everything. I've been hiding in my apartment. It's been a year. I think I'm okay, right?" But he didn't do anything, man. He walked out of that apartment and he relapsed. If the alcoholic tries to shield himself, he may succeed for a time, but he usually winds up with a bigger explosion than ever. We have tried these methods. These attempts to do the impossible have always failed. Highlight the next 4 lines. So our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. This includes bars, nightclubs, dances, receptions, weddings, and even plain ordinary whoopee parties. Not sure what those are. To a person, I know what a whoopee cushion is, but a whoopee party. To a person who has had experience with an alcoholic, this may seem like tempting providence, but it isn't. I went to my sister's wedding at about 3 years sober, and everybody was getting drunk and having a great time, and I was having a great time. I'm up there dancing with the belly dancers and everybody. My 2 brothers who are practicing alcoholics, nobody was giving them anything to drink, right? And they were sitting there with gloomy Gus faces the whole night, and they wanted to leave. Here I am. Everybody else was getting tipsy, right? I was having just a great time with no booze, dancing, doing everything. But those 2 guys practicing alcoholics is a horrible night for them. Because they can't drink around the family because they're alcoholics, right? You will note that we made an important qualification. Therefore, ask yourself on each occasion, highlight, have I any good social, business, or personal reason for going to this place? Right? We got to have a good reason. Or am I expecting to steal a little vicarious pleasure from the atmosphere of such places? If you answer these questions satisfactorily, you need have no apprehension. Go or stay away, whichever seems best. Highlight the next 3 lines, but be sure you are on solid spiritual ground before you start, and that your motive in going is thoroughly good. It only mentions motives in this book a couple of times. We live not by motives, we live by principles, right? Motives are maybe I can make up a story and lie to teach you a good lesson, right? My motives are good, but that's not living by the principles. We live by the principles and we live clean. Do not think of what you will get out of the occasion. Next to that sentence, write self-seeking. That's self-seeking. Think of what you can bring to it. Okay, highlight. Think of what you can bring to it, but if you are shaky, you would better work with another alcoholic instead. Continually, it tells us that work with other people is going to save the day. Why sit with a long face in places where there is drinking? My 2 brothers, sighing about the good old days. If it is a happy occasion, try to increase the pleasure of those there. If a business occasion, go and attend to your business enthusiastically. If you are with a person who wants to eat in a bar, by all means go along. Highlight. Let your friends know they are not to change their habits on your account. My family knows doggone well, and friends, if they want to drink, that's fine with me. It is now. I ain't saying in my first few months of sobriety or working, that it might have bothered me. I might have stayed away. At a proper time and place, explain to all your friends why alcohol disagrees with you. If you will do this thoroughly, few people will ask you to drink. While you were drinking, you were withdrawing from life little by little. Now you're getting back into the social life of this world. Don't start to withdraw again just because your friends drink liquor. Highlight the next 3 lines. Your job now is to be at the place where you may be of maximum helpfulness to others, so never hesitate to go anywhere if you can be helpful. Next to that, write not later. Right? Your job now, not later. You should not hesitate to visit the most sordid spot on earth on such an errand. Highlight. Keep on the firing line of life with these motives, and God will keep you unharmed. Right? So next to that, write stay in the program of action. Stay in the program of action. Many of us keep liquor in our homes. I do not. I rent my basement out to somebody, and he has beer down there. That's fine. We often need it to carry green recruits through a severe hangover. Some of us still serve it to our friends, provided they are not alcoholic. But some of us think we should not serve liquor to anyone. We never argue this question. We feel that each family, in the light of their own circumstances, ought to decide for themselves. When I'm hosting a dinner or Thanksgiving or something, I tell all of my family members or friends, if they come over, that they can bring their wine or whatever. It does not bother me. Highlight the next 2 lines. We are careful never to show intolerance or hatred of drinking as an institution. Right? We're not going to be Debbie Downers, right? Experience shows that such an attitude is not helpful to anyone. Every new alcoholic looks for the Spirit among us, and is immensely relieved when he finds we are not witch burners. A spirit of intolerance might repel alcoholics whose lives could have been saved had it not been for such stupidity. We would not even do the cause of temperate drinking any good. Highlight to the end of the paragraph, for not one drinker in 1,000 likes to be told anything about alcohol by one who hates it. Right? Now remember, we're placed in a position of neutrality, right? We got in step 10, right? It doesn't bother us anymore, right? I used to not be able, when I was going to a lot of meetings, man, if I saw, I see something on TV, I saw that cold beer and it was sweating, I didn't work these steps, it got me awfully thirsty. Today it does not bother me in the least. Someday we hope that Alcoholics Anonymous will help the public to a better realization of the gravity of the alcoholic problem. Highlight all the way to the end. But we shall be of little use if our attitude is one of bitterness or hostility. Drinkers will not stand for it. After all, our problems were of our own making. Bottles were only a symbol. Besides, we have stopped fighting anybody or anything. We have to. We're just going to write 6 quick things. I got more stuff, but we're going to do it next week. So this is just write sponsor, and it's 6 quick little things. So this was I heard a speaker, Scott, say this, and I love it. When selecting a sponsor or being a sponsor, whatever. 1, sober. 2, done work. 3, has sponsor. 4, will tell you the truth, right? Even when it hurts a lot, right? So we'll tell you the truth. 5, active in service work. And 6, laughs a lot, likes fun. Right? We had we drank, we like fun. We're not going to be Debbie Downers, man. We want to hang around with people that are having fun and they're laughing. So sober, done work, has sponsor, will tell the truth, active in service work, laughs a lot, right? So that's what this fellow Scott said you can look for in a sponsor, and I think it's great. So, and I've got other stuff, but we can cover that next week. We're at 8 o'clock, so let's close with the 7th step prayer. My Creator, I am now ready that you should have all of me, good and bad. I now pray that you remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do thy bidding. Amen.